Welcome to this next episode of the Beloved Miracles Couples Project. Welcome, Desmond.
How you doing, Tim? Thanks so much for having me on.
Doing very well, my friend, and bridging this long distance from Norway all the way to, you're in Vancouver, BC, Canada?
That's correct. But I mean, you're a local from North America as well, so it's probably not so big of a gap, right? The world is a small place.
I appreciate you mentioning that, and that's probably the rapport I naturally feel with you, because I'm fourth generation Seattle area, so that West Coast up north there where you are, that's very much home for me. Thank you for
I did detect the West Coast accent. That's right. We have a fairly neutral accent versus say the Midwest or the Southern accents or even the East Coast, right?
We do.
Yeah.
We stand out. Well, thank you. And give me just a second here to introduce you. Desmond is founder of the marketing agency Tube Your Own Horn, where he and his team work with professionals, thought leaders, coaches, realtors, and agents who offer high-ticket products, services, or courses by leveraging the power of video marketing on the world's second largest search engine, YouTube. So today, the fatherpreneur and six-figure mentor Desmond Soon turns setbacks into comebacks. However, it wasn't always this way. So Desmond, where does your story begin?
All right, Tim. Thanks very much for that very gracious and lovely introduction there. I've been invited out here to speak with the audience here, mainly couples. But wait a minute, I think a lot of the audiences might be noticing where is that other second half, right? And even if you were to go and read through my bio, Google my name, YouTube me, you'll see that I've actually, in the past 3 years, branded myself as a single parent. So wait a minute, here's the shock, right? You've got couples, and not only couples are watching this, but for most of the couples, you're going like, wait a minute, Desmond, if we've been following Tim's show here, it's mainly focused around how can couples work together? How can they be entrepreneurs together? How can they, in particular, in the online arena, right? And so my wife and I are not divorced. That's the number one secret that I would like to just reveal to the audience, right? And you got to stick all the way to the end of this interview, and I'll share with you a bunch of other secrets as well that I don't normally share on most interviews. All right, sound fair? So pretty good, right? So my wife and I are not divorced. We just live separately. And back 3 years ago when I first got started, as I was telling Tim when we were discussing before the show, we got started at a very, in the internet arena when we were going through some really, really bad financial devastation. And, I grew up in Singapore. I was born in Singapore. I'm a Singaporean. My mom is mixed of Scottish and Portuguese with Indonesian. So she's a Eurasian. And my dad has got also mixed Chinese with Indonesian. So he's kind of, Hokkien mixed with Indonesian, Southeast Asian Chinese, right? And so I was born in Singapore, grew up there till the age of 12. We immigrated over to Canada, Vancouver, where we don't suntan here. We rust from all the rain, right? And I grew up here for another 12 years. So 12 Singapore, 12 Vancouver. And then I found myself moving out to Japan at the age of 23, 24, where I spent 12 years. So it was like the golden triangle, right? 12, 12, 12. And that, that's how I also developed the term called the Pan-Asian serial entrepreneur, because, I basically spanned the Pacific, right? Now, while I was living in Japan, I did everything from partying, drugs, girls, group sex, selling sex toys. One of my first business ventures was a company that I raised $500,000 from, private investors to set up a jewelry company dealing in sexual jewelry. There's another secret there, and a little bit of a shocker for the couples watching. Some people snickering, even getting embarrassed, right? Now, here's the disclaimer and the parental advisory. If you got any kids around, make sure you plug their ears or have them go play with their toys right now, because I'm going to reveal a couple of things that might offend some of you. But hey, if that's the case, I'm really sorry in advance. Maybe what I have to say is not for you. However, if you can put aside or suspend some of your disbeliefs or some of your, stereotypes right now, if I might say it that way, I've got some really important information I'd like to share with all of you. You see, this will eventually circle back to how my wife and I have been able to successfully do what we do while being apart, right? Especially in this day and age where divorce is so prevalent. It's just, And I hope I'm speaking to the right audience here. If you're watching this, whether you have gone through a divorce and no one's judging you if you have, or you went through a very, very terrible marriage in which it was very abusive, sexually, physically, verbally, emotionally, whatever it was, and you had to get out, or you're contemplating divorce, or you're in a very, very unfulfilling marriage right now, or the last one, you're just happily married. Whichever the case is, I'm going to speak to all of you in this audience, okay? And I've got little bits for every single person here. Now, and how does that all tie in with business as well? Because at the end of the day, I look at marriage or being together. Some these days, even people don't get married; they just are common law. But being together is literally like a business, right? It's like having a partner. You have to put in the time, the effort, the communication, the common goals, the vision, the compromise, the courage, the patience. All those things have to come together in order to make that work. And it's no different in business. If you can't make a marriage work, what makes you think you can make a business work? If you can't make a business work, what makes you think a marriage is going to work, right? If you can't manage your finances for your personal life, what makes you think you'll manage your finances in a marriage or in a business? So these are some of the really, really basic foundations that I've taught over the years as I grew and I started to earn my authority and started to develop a following, of people, mentees that I would mentor, people I would coach, people that I would just altruistically want to help. And that was my message. I felt a calling to that. Even as a child, I had a calling to want to even get into the monastery, to go into the church. I was raised as a Catholic. Though as I got older, I decided to kind of shed a bit of the dogmatism of religious sects and stuff like that. Not sex, S-E-X, but S-A-C. The sect, right? Like, can't even pronounce that correctly. But anyhow, that's the Singaporean accent. I'll blame it on that. And what it was it was a journey around that time that I found a very deep, emotional, personal, spiritual journey in which I met, non-denominational Christians, fellow Bible fellowship friends and Muslim friends and, Hindus and Sikhs and Taoists, Confucianism. And I met a lot of people, Buddhists, everyone from different so-called religions. And what I really realized at the end of the day was the good religions, that is, not the fanatical ones that have really, really crazy, ideals of killing people and stuff like that. I believe the human race, most of the religions that are out there, are really meant to have one common denominator, and that's to do unto others what you want them to do unto you, and to just really get along, right? Ethics and stuff like that. So it's really good, code of conduct in almost all the different religions. Now, how does this play back to everything? Desmond, you're losing me. Okay, guys, pause for a second here. You see, when I got married in Japan, I went out there because when I was kind of going through university, and I didn't even graduate from university. There's another secret for you guys, is that many people think I'm this academic, business person with an MBA, and I don't. I dropped out of college. I did go through 2 years of university as a pilot. Okay, so I was training to be a pilot, flew planes. It was a aviation business degree that I was going for, but I never completed that. I dropped out of it and went out to Japan to party. Part of it was when I was in university, I studied statistics. Yeah, statistics, without getting tongue twisted there. Statistics. And one of the things that I focused on for one of my projects was to measure at that time back in right after Y2K, year 2000, was what was the divorce rate in North America. And it scared me, it terrified me, because one of my dreams was to get married, even as a young boy. And trust me, for some of you might relate to this, I'm going to just come right out and brag about it. Okay, but I was pretty damn good at picking up girls. I was not one of those guys that had any troubles trying to find girls. It wasn't always the case, though. Being an immigrant, being Asian, in a predominantly Caucasian school with 50% population East Indian, 50%, wannabe skinheads that were trying to be neo-Nazis, and having this clash and being caught in the middle. That's the racism in Canada. Okay, we don't pull guns out and shoot each other. They just pretend to be gangsters and skinheads. And so I was right in the middle. And how I basically was liked by everyone was I sold drugs, right? Was literally, that was the common bond. See, that was the entrepreneur in me. At the age of 14, I had some friends offer me this rolled up cigarette that had some green stuff in it. And they were like, hey, Desmond, have you ever done this? And I was trying to blend in with the crowd, peer pressure. I was like, oh, yeah, I've had that. Give me that. And, good shit, right? And then my brain started thinking, going, wait a minute, why are you guys all buying individual stuff here? Give me all your money, guys. Give me all your money. So I collected all their money. I bought wholesale, sold retail. First business ever did in Canada. I had other businesses before that, but that was one of my first entrepreneurial things that I did. Later on, I even went on to organize a troupe of guys who were in grade 8, grade 9, while I was in grade 10, grade 11, to break into cars and steal radar detectors and stereo systems. Yet another failed business. And then I got busted by the cops, just under the age of 16, and it was a big wake-up call. That's when I realized that doing illegal things was not the right thing to do, that I had to learn how to do things ethically, because I broke my dad's heart. It was the first time I ever saw my dad cry. Fast forwarding a bit, I went on to become one of McDonald's top youngest managers, and I became a pilot, decided to go to university, all kinds of things like that. While I was in university, met these business guys. That was my first exposure to business mentors, because there was this group of them that were putting together this sort of like gathering. Now these days we have meetup.com and stuff, but back then there wasn't. It was just sort of like a gathering of business entrepreneurs. And several of them were either business owners, like a CEO of an architectural firm or engineering firm. And there was this guy who was this MLM guy. There was a guy who was a financial planner. And they were there to recruit people, pretty much. These guys got together. They posed as authorities. And then they had all these young guys coming in, dressing up in suits, like in our dad's suits. And many of them were just kind of there as a recruiting sort of session. Well, I happened to be recruited by the guy that was in Amway. And because I just really saw him for a success. He was there with his wife. Here's how the story ties in here. He was a very, very famous diamond, which actually Tim and I will talk about this because Tim called me a diamond as well. And he was a diamond who lived in Spokane, Washington, that flew up here in his private jet. So I was like, holy smokes, this guy's the real deal. I want to learn from this guy. So he taught me how to read books. And, he didn't teach me how to read books, but he said, read books, books and audios for personal development. And one of the first books I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, why did I read that book? Out of all the book lists that they had As a Man Thinketh, Hung by the Tongue, Magic of Thinking Big. Why did I choose How to Win Friends and Influence People? If you guys can guess that, post in the comments below if you're watching this live, right? Okay, so I'll give you guys, without the cliffhanger there. I read that book because I wanted to pick up more girls. That was it, plain and simple. 18-year-old boy thinking with my other head, I wanted to pick up girls, right? If I can win girls with this book, damn, that's gonna be the ace up my sleeve. So I mastered that book. And I did very well at it. I would show up at parties, and they'd say it'd be about 20, 30 people, 40 people there, drinking parties while underage. There's a keg there. Someone booted and got the keg. And as the party started, I would literally go around the room like, your name is Jenny, Joe, Peter, Smith. And I would literally get everyone's names, and I'd pull it off as a party trick. And all the girls were impressed by that. The guys were like, asshole, whatever. But, all right, whoa, dude, that was cool. Here, have another beer. But the girls were pretty impressed, right? And so I learned how to have a pleasing personality, smile, listen, don't argue, all the things you can get out of that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you are, whatever age you are right now, you're never too old to read that book. Pick it up, read it, implement what's in that book. So there you go, Dale Carnegie just sent you a whole bunch of customers. Now, that couple that I met, they really inspired me because I saw that they worked together very well. They were good. And I'm not promoting Christianity in any way whatsoever. Actually, I learned esoteric law of attraction, download universe, aliens, and whatnot, as well as also, the blend of being, religious and stuff like that, meditation and so forth, right? But what happened was I saw them to be a just really good grounded couple. And they were retired. They didn't have to work. They didn't have to commute. They could work from home. They had a nice house on the lake with a speedboat, a sports car, an SUV. They had the perfect life, the perfect North American life. And I really looked up to that at the age of 18, 19, 20. And I had a girlfriend at the time. She was very young, and we were really, really looking forward to getting married very early. So my whole goal was to always get married, have kids, be a super dad, and have my wife and I work together. That was it. That was a very simple, plain dream. Not so different than I think most people, right? And so I made an effort to really work towards that. It didn't matter what kind of work I did. It didn't matter what where my life took me. That's just really what I wanted. Call it simplistic. It's almost like a little girl's dream of having that white house and picket fence and, the beautiful wedding and so forth, 2 kids and a husband, going off to work kind of thing, right? It's almost like that. It was very, very naive or simplistic. But anyhow, so I go out to Japan. I'm enjoying the philanderous life. And, I broke up with that original girlfriend that sent me spiraling, made me decide to go out to Japan. And while I was in Japan, That's when I met my current wife. And I never thought that I would ever force my wife to be the housewife. You see, because times are already changing. Times are changing where it's no longer like what my parents, were. When my dad went to work, my mom was the housemaker. We're in a generation now of very empowered women, and kudos to all of you. Feminism a little bit extreme, but hey, you need to kind of, like, the tides have to shift sometimes, right? Try to find the middle ground there, and that is, you can't please everyone, but at least not be extremists, right? And so I'm very, very happy to see so many women be empowered. And that was my goal, is to empower my wife. If I can really love my wife and give her whatever she wants, is to let her blossom, let her grow. So the wife that I married, right, happened to be from a family that were very, very workaholic entrepreneurs. And so when we got married, I didn't ask her, I didn't demand of her, I didn't insist or tell her that she needed to stay home and raise the babies. We just kind of winged it. We tried to figure it out. And I went out to Japan because I was very, very disillusioned by the number of divorce rates. Remember that research I did, the statistic thing, in North America, whereas in Japan, the divorce rate was much lower. At that time, it was something like 30%, right? Compared to North America, like 55% or whatever. I was like, 55%, the odds are, I'd rather go gamble, right? At the casino, I got better odds than, getting married here. So meeting that couple, not wanting to ever get divorced, looking at the divorce rate in North America, completely turned off, went out to Japan, met my wife there, married an entrepreneur wife that was a workaholic, that grew up in a workaholic family. So she naturally did what she was raised to do, and that was to go to work. So I guess that's kind of the synopsis when it pertains, especially Tim was asking me to talk more about marriage and business. I'm just going to stop there for a bit and pass the mic back to Tim, because I know he's probably got some questions, or if he's observing the chat, with you guys on it, you might have some questions as well. And then I'll go deeper. I'll dive deeper. And if you guys want, we can even schedule another time, and I'll share with you guys more stories and more secrets.
You're full of them. You are full of them. Let's go on to what changed in your life, where a system started being in your awareness. It sounds like clearly network marketing, Amway was an introduction of a system. Is that kind of where your awareness of a system being at play started, or would you even say it was sooner or later than that period of your timeline?
I think systems have always been around in my life, but I'm sort of known as the sapphire personality, the sanguine, I'm the one that jumps off the cliff and builds a parachute on the way down. So I'm probably the proverbial, the entrepreneur that makes a mess, everywhere I go. And systems, my dad is the complete opposite. He's the engineer, he's the stoic, the beaver, the green personality, I believe the phlegmatic. Anyhow, the psychological terms, if you want to look it up, like DISC, right? You guys can look it up. But he's the one that's, a place for everything and everything in its place kind of thing. He'd be the guy that would draw the outlines of a tool and put it right there, and that's where it's got to go, right? You got to have it clean, right? So, whereas I'd be like using his stuff and throwing it everywhere. So systems, I absolutely despised systems for a very long time. I was against the system, though I was in the military. And in the military and being a pilot, you have to have systems. But I was the maverick. So you see, it's sort of a conundrum. Like, I was always around systems, yet I was always challenging the system. That's why I got arrested, right? I was in the military and I was a pilot. I would break rules. Rules were there to be broken, right? They would say, don't go fly above this thing. I would fly above it. Don't go below this, else I would go below it. Don't go above this speed. I would go above it, right? So that was me. And then when things came crashing down, when I started going through some really, really, really rough times in my life, I had no one else to blame except myself. And here's another thing that you guys can take away is, regardless of whatever situation you happen to find yourself in right now, always, sorry guys, the neighbors above are making a lot of noise with dragging the chairs around. It's as if, have you ever seen the thing on Facebook where, like, the neighbors above, they think it's an art form to purposely make noise? You gotta watch that. There's a thing it went viral on Facebook. Sorry, pattern interrupt for you guys there. No, really, like, they get the bowling ball, they purposely drop it, or they get like a jar of marbles and they purposely spill it at 3 o'clock in the morning upstairs, just to get the people downstairs going like, what the hell is going on up there?
We'll have to post a link to that as part of this.
Maybe that's my homework. As soon as we're done, I'll look that up. And it's a hilarious video that you can make, that they made, and it's just so funny. I was like, what am I watching here? Anyhow, with systems, that's what, yeah, literally, you know, I mean, yeah, I guess you could say, you know, network marketing. I've been around network marketing for a long time. So many people are still put off by it, but for me, it's just sort of like, it's just been there. It's like for an Asian eating rice. I don't know. It's just like, you know, people, why is everyone against rice? I'm like, rice is rice. Network marketing is network marketing. You know, it's good for, I just think a lot of people don't know that get into network marketing. They just come about it wrong. There's a lot of network marketing companies that attract a lot of bottom feeders. Haters are going to hate me for saying that. Desperate people that just want to pitch. Their intentions are wrong. When they get into it, they don't treat it like a business. So because of that, yeah, I guess because of that, you know, I started to learn systems. Systems were what brought a bit of the, what's that phrase? You know, organization to the madness, whatever, you know, there's a phrase out there I'm trying to get to, but anyway, you know, it brought some, it allowed me to follow step by step and to kind of control myself, to learn to discipline myself, right? Now, I did pride myself on some discipline. I'd proven that I could be disciplined when I wanted to. So it was all about finding that motivation to find out when I wanted to be disciplined, what was driving me, and when I was driven me, then I would not submit to the system, but I enjoyed having a system because it helped me to get to my goals faster. Right? Having mentors was a system. A mentor was a system because they presented the system to me. Follow what I've done. I've walked through the minefield, Desmond. Listen to what I have to say, and you will get there faster with less mistakes. And I guess I was tired of making all the mistakes. I was tired of, you know, working so hard and have everything crumble around me. So that was the story of my life. All through my 20s, I'd build something up and it come crashing down. I'd build something up, it come crashing down. And eventually I submitted to wanting to learn more from mentors that taught me systems. And now even in my current company, Tubio and Horn, it's all about systems. Michael Gerber, I enjoy learning and implementing systems. Systems in my marriage, systems in my business, systems in my finances. Systems really help me to enjoy the life that I have right now without having to micromanage everything. Does that answer your question?
It sure does, and it swings it from one extreme to the other, right? It used to be your nemesis, and now it sounds like it's a pillar of strength for you. So thank you for sharing that. Let's see if we can wrap this. It's not going to be easy because you've got so many amazing topics. Can we do this again soon, Desmond?
We definitely can. I mean, in fact, if anyone who's watching this, okay, you ever heard of a term called call to action? Well, if you've ever watched a TV series, like say on Netflix, you know, it's like it's the pilot, you know, it's the opening series, the opening show, and it's like the cliffhanger at the end of the hour or something, you know, and they're like, oh my God, when's the next episode? I gotta wait till next week for the next episode. So I encourage anyone who's watching this to stick around with Tim. If you haven't already subscribed to his email list, or I'll let Tim explain how you guys can stay plugged in. I'm sure I'll make some time to jump on and share more stories with you guys. Not just stories, but actual things that work, right? Like actual strategies, actual systems that work that will help you regardless of where you are. But I would like to hear from you, first of all, you know, through Tim, you know, communicate to Tim, reply to him, reach out to him, send him a message, say, hey, I saw that episode with Desmond. I would like to hear more. Please get him back on. And if we get enough of those, then, hey, you know, I twist my arm, I'll have to just jump back on, right?
Well said. Well said. And let's have them also be specific, you know, any questions they have, any topics that they'd like us to go deeper on. Yeah, we can address that. So for now, thinking of the couples primarily in our audience that we're speaking to, what additional advice would you have specific to couples building together, implementing a system, Desmond?
Awesome. Okay, so my wife and I are still very much together. And why are we together is because of, I would say it's our, both of us, you know, we decided not to divorce, right? And we decided to work through things. That doesn't mean that we weren't on the verge of divorce, and it looked very bleak 3 years ago. So I'm circling right back to that initial story there. And what I'll say to the couples is communication. I've got a business partner right now who's going through a really rough time with his marriage. He married this woman, you know, years ago. They were really happy, had some kids. And all of a sudden now he's got goals that are just way up here, and she just wants to live a simple life. And they don't match. And he's working like a maniac to bring in all this money. And she just thinks that he's a useless dad or a father that's not around, that's not participating. Massive miscommunication in the direction they're going, right? So communication, again, you know, it's about finding that middle ground. It's about finding that compromise. It's like two business partners. One wants to go, I don't know, have an automotive company, and the other one wants to have a holistic, you know, organic foods company. Two different things. I mean, you guys are not going to be together. You have to find something. maybe have a holistic food company that's on an automobile that can be driven around or something. I don't know. You know, find a common ground. I'm using a really weird analogy there, but I hope you guys got the message, is that whatever the couple is, many times it's the crazy guy, okay, us guys that come up with these harebrained ideas, and the wife's going like, oh my God, not another one of those things. You didn't just spend your money. Give me the credit card. Don't go. No, it's another one of them scams. You know, the wives, I mean, I used to hear this once from one of my mentors before, and he always used to say this, okay? And now they were very Christian and very, you know, and a little bit chauvinistic. You might, some of the women out there are going to hate me for saying this, but the man is the head of the house. The man is the head of the house. The woman does not stand in front of him. The woman does not stand behind him. She stands right next to him. But she stands just short enough that when he's the head, right? So that when something goes wrong and God takes a swing, it goes right over her head and hits him square in the face. That's a very religious thing, and I'm not even like massively preaching or anything, but I was like, damn, that makes a lot of sense. Here's another one, okay? The man's the head of the house. Well, the women, you're the neck, and you're giving us freaking whiplash, right? Many times. So learn to work together. Many women are cutting off the blood supply to the man's head, right? And men, don't be assholes, don't be idiots. Get off the couch. Stop wasting money, right? Listen to your wife, right? You know, respect her, right? Communicate to her. If you got some idea and you want to start up some business, you want to get online, you want to be an entrepreneur, make sure you got her buy-in first. I've talked to lots of couples. I've talked to lots of men who are very interested to learn from me or to, you know, sign up for something I had. And I always told the guy first, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. You have a wife, right? Why is she not on this call? Why are we not talking together? Because if she is not supportive of this, it's not going to work, right? So that's my advice to all you guys out there. As couples, you're now connected at the hip. I'm sorry, you have to make decisions together. Yes, as a man, you might think, no, I'm going to make the decisions. This is my money. You know, I work for it. Hey, you want to keep thinking that way? Go and join the 55 divorced, okay? You know what I'm saying? Work together. Does that answer your question? Does that help you guys out?
It does, Desmond. It absolutely does. And it brings it right back to where you started with statistics, right? And I would imagine today the statistics of divorce rate in North America probably hasn't changed much at all, has it?
No, it's actually quite the trend right now. You go down to Staples and you can buy your own divorce papers, right? So it's kind of like, you know, the next wedding I go to, I might just even have that in the, you know, the wedding present. I might be like, here's your wedding present. And oh, by the way, I already bought you the divorce papers in case, you know, right? Because the odds are, no, that's just really morbid. That's a really bad joke. I'm sorry. That's funny.
I'm glad you've moved on from being a statistician into a business and entrepreneurship. And then I'll close with these words that you beautifully exemplified, right? Together we overcome. And even in your case with your wife, to be able to live separately and yet still be together and be the parents, be an example to your children that can inspire. You've done that for all of us today, and I thank you very deeply for it. Me, I'm sure you'll surprise many with some golden nuggets. Let's do this again real soon.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely. Subscribe. Join our Facebook group. Getting a little echo now. Clear, but we'll also add any comments to this so that you can likewise plug into this conversation, because I'm quite sure Desmond and I will have an ongoing, continuing conversation here on a few of these topics. They're deep, they're rich, they're really significant in this exemplifying of together we overcome. So for now, Desmond, I'll be saying goodbye from Norway. Let's do it again soon, my friend.
You bet. Take care and have a fantastic, blessed, prosperous week.